What is up guys? Welcome back to my reaction channel. Today we're gonna be reacting to SCP-407, the Song of Genesis by SCP Explained. Yo bro, what the fuck? I'm so brown though, what the hell? But hey, like the video guys, subscribe to my channel, hit the bell button for post notifications. If you have any suggestions, comment down below. With that being said, let's get into the intro.
It all started with a panicked phone call. A local landlady who owned a downtown tenement building had called the police in hysterics. Something horrifying had happened to one of her tenants. She couldn't possibly explain. The one detail she was able to articulate was that his room looked like a rainforest. A police response team was on the case in no time. They drove down to the tenement building, met the crying landlady out the door, and found their way to the room that caused all this confusion. When they'd opened the door, they saw with horror that she was right. Trees, plants, fungi, and even insects and animals were all over the room. It was teeming with life. The flora and fauna in this room didn't look like anything else on Earth, and given the anomalous nature of what had happened here, it's extremely possible they were right.
Maybe
the tenant, a university professor who'd recently gone on an anthropological expedition to the Amazon rainforest, was nowhere to be seen. But one of the officers spotted a grim clue for what may have happened to him. A large colony of anomalous mold was quickly growing on the far wall. The officer swore it was a trick of the mind at first, but he was wrong. A human skull was sinking into the tissue of the mold, and to make matters worse, whipping tendrils began to slither from the empty eye sockets, reaching for the new meat. Thankfully for everyone who is still alive at this point, the SCP Foundation swooped in and took over the situation with the help of a mobile task force and some containment specialists. The landlady, the cops, and the other...
Of course they'll be in there very fast, you know. They'd be in there very fast because SCP has a lot of men everywhere, you know, every police station, every organization, even senators, presidents and shit, they're there, you know, they have men there. God damn, bro.
The residents of the building were given amnestics and relocated. The building was purchased by the Foundation and condemned while they searched the anomalous room for the source of this unchecked biological growth. And they found their answer in a most unlikely form, an unmarked cassette tape still inside the player when they arrived. The recording on this cassette tape came to be known as SCP-407. It may be unassuming when compared to immortal, misanthropic lizard monsters and multi-dimensional chaos gods, but the tape in that room, if it ever fell into the wrong hands, could cause a mass ecological catastrophe that would inevitably bloom into a dreaded XK-class end-of-the-world scenario.
Oh shit.
So first things first, what is actually on this tape? Thanks to brief samples heard in tests with D-Class personnel, the Foundation was able to discover that it was an approximately 28-minute-long recording of a song. It's performed in an unknown language, and appears to be sung a cappella style by a group of unknown individuals. Fearing potential degradation of the cassette tape, the Foundation backed it up as an audio file in the Site-19 computer database. Those who've been able to listen to the song during testing have had an overwhelmingly positive emotional response, describing it as soothing, glorious, and beautiful. And for the first minute of its runtime, the song's anomalous effect really live up to this reputation. When the song is played, it massively accelerates cell growth within its auditory range. Its potency is increased by the volume and the length it's allowed to play. It's important to note that plugging or covering your ears won't make any difference. The area of effect seems to be defined by how far the sound vibrations travel, and whether you're actually able to hear it is irrelevant. But if you're only listening for a minute or less, you'll be glad to feel the anomalous effect of being within SCP-407's auditory range. During this specific period of time, it's been shown to be a kind of miracle cure to almost all physical maladies, with the exception of cancer. Thanks to the cell-growing and rejuvenating properties of the song, the Foundation discovered that 407 was an effective treatment for Alzheimer's disease, Crohn's disease, brain and spinal cord injuries, and normally fatal infections or wounds.
Pause. Guys. This thing can help people, but you just don't overdo it, you know? Because it's gonna grow bigger, you know? It's gonna grow porous inside your body or some shit like that, you know? Wait up. There we go.
Amongst other maladies, it was like a version of SCP-500, the pills that can cure everything, but one that would never run out. So, if it's such an effective healer, why wasn't it more widely employed by the Foundation? Because of what happens if you keep listening. If the song was played for 2 to 3 minutes, the subject would begin to experience unnecessary and unchecked cell growth, particularly on the skin. The result would mostly be benign tumors and calcium and fat deposits, which though sometimes painful and disfiguring, are not life-threatening.
So you
At
don't
minute
go
4,
flores,
single-celled organisms in
you
the
don't
auditory
grow
vicinity
flores
of the song
inside
begin
your
to
body.
experience
The fuck?
accelerated mitosis, also known as cell division. This results in bacterial and fungal growth that become extremely dangerous for anyone and anything exposed. And beyond minute 5, things become truly monstrous. The Foundation only ever conducted 2 tests wherein the song was fully played. These tests presented such a huge danger that further testing of 407 was forbidden without explicit permission from a member of O5 Command. The first test involved a female
O5
member of
involved.
D-Class personnel in a soundproofed but unsterilized testing chamber. As expected, she was initially delighted by the music. It cured her injured knee and brought her back to a state of peak physical fitness, but
Injured
this
knee.
didn't last for long. She soon began to report intense dizziness and stomach pain, resulting in severe sickness. At this point, anomalous plant growth began in the corners of the testing chamber. It seemed as though a whole ecosystem was coming to life and evolving at an
Holy
impossibly
shit.
fast rate in the chamber. Over the next few minutes, the D-Class experienced a nightmarish physical transformation. Her skin became a thick, calloused mass. She soon devolved further into a thick, immobile blob of pure flesh, unrecognizable as anything human, while the chamber around her was becoming a lush rainforest of alien plants. These plants grew around and eventually on her, until there was nothing left. Shortly after, all the plants died and decomposed, giving way to a huge mound of anomalous mold devouring the resulting mulch. The mold itself began to evolve, growing large mouth and hand-like structures that it used to feed itself on the surrounding flora and fauna as it began to grow back. When the song ended, the Foundation brought the test to a close, sterilized the room, and collected some samples for later. There was nothing left of the original D-Class subject. The second test wasn't any nicer. While at first the subject, this time a male member of D-Class personnel, appeared to become more youthful and even gain an inch of height, as the minutes passed, he began to experience extreme discomfort. He soon began to vomit, with the vomit
it's
quickly
useful
blooming into
unless
plants.
you
Plant shoots
overdid
also
it,
began
you
to
know.
quickly spring out of his eyes and mouth, until his entire body was destroyed by what appeared to be a banana tree suddenly growing out of it. Once again,
fuck?
the testing chamber became a whole ecosystem. This one filled with unique, never-before-seen mammals. However, it all came to an end when the room was taken over by a fast-growing parasitic fungus that consumed everything else with its spores and fungal stalks. And it looked like it was
Yikes.
breathing. There was something concerning about both of these tests, beyond the obvious physical horror of watching death by unchecked cell growth. What was this mysterious fungus that kept appearing and seemed to take over everything it touched in the end? The Foundation tested the samples it collected rigorously, and it came to a surprising conclusion. They'd actually encountered this same fungus before, but not in this
Where?
dimension. SCP-507 is a man with
Okay.
dimension hopping abilities. The one problem is, he can't control where and when he hops. As a result, he's been stuck in a number of scary
Pause. You know, every SCP has this stupid ass side effects. This guy, I thought it was cool, you know. He can hop dimensions. He can go into another world. Cool, why not? Then he has these stupid ass side effects. He can't control it. Fucking hell, bro.
alternate dimensions, but one seemed eerily similar to what the Foundation was encountering with SCP-407. In one dimension he briefly hopped into, 507 encountered an abandoned version of Site-19, strewn with corpses covered in that same breathing mold. He was horrified, but decided to
Okay.
inspect further, hoping to find his way out of the facility and discover some answers about
So
what
in
happened
alternate
here.
universe,
However, when he found his way
SCP
out, what he
in the world
discovered didn't comfort him.
is destroyed.
The entire world seemed to be covered by this same mold.
Yep.
There was nothing left. It consumed everything. Thanks to Foundation tests, both molds were found to be similar to the cordyceps fungi, a kind of dangerous parasitic mold. Except this one appeared to be a far more evolved and even more deadly version of the fungus.
Ooh.
What could this mean? What was the origin of this anomalous song? Would it and the fungus it seems to inspire someday destroy the world as we know it and kill us all? We'll never actually know the answer to any of this. And it's thanks to an extremely unlikely ally.
Destroy it.
A person of interest nicknamed
Just destroy it,
LS. A prominent member of the Serpent's Hand. This enigmatic figure had
course.
previously come into possession of SCP-268, a hat that made them almost impossible to detect. With the help of this hat, LS breached Site-19 in an incident that was later dubbed Security Breach Incident X-23. While it's believed that LS mainly broke into the facility to make use of SCP-914, they performed a curious action along the way. They hacked into the Foundation database and deleted all traces of SCP-407, effectively neutralizing it. In a note left by LS, they said, "You'll thank me for deleting what you call 407. Why would a member of the Serpent's Hand, a group of interest that is often
Oh.
militant in their
She knows it.
anti-neutralization stance, neutralize an SCP themselves? The answer to this lays in who exactly LS is. This mysterious
Little
figure
sister.
isn't technically one person. They're a group of the same person, namely a woman named Allison Chow, from a number of different dimensions.
Yep.
They meet in the Wanderer's Library, the headquarters of the Serpent's Hand that exists between dimensions to coordinate their missions. Why does this matter in regards to SCP-407? Because the nature of LS allows them to know what's going on in a huge number of dimensions at once. This means, much like the
that's
brief
true.
glimpse given by SCP-507, LS likely knows about another universe where 407 and its horrific mold have already caused an XK-class scenario and destroyed the world. And if it happened there due to poor biological containment measures, or 407 falling into the wrong hands, it could happen here too. Unless, of course, someone stepped in and dealt with the problem personally. And while the Foundation's policy is typically to contain rather than neutralize the anomalies they find, we have to admit, we're probably with the Serpent's Hand on this one. Some songs, as it turns out, are just better left unplayed. Now go watch SCP-073 and 076 Kane.
That is SCP-407, the Song of Genesis. You know, I always, SCP Foundation stupid as hell sometimes, They could have just get rid of it, be done with it, But instead they just contain it. Why don't they just hand it over to Global Occult Coalition to be destroyed? Because it's dangerous as hell. It's not worth it, But I like the video, guys. Subscribe to my channel. Hit the bell button for post notifications. If you have any suggestions, comment down below. I'll see you soon.